Take back the rights we've all been taught to honor. Take a knee. Sometimes in this crazy world, you have to stoop to conquer. Take a knee for the First Amendment. Take a knee as a proud descendant. Take a knee for America and what it all stands for. Take a knee for America and what we all stand for.
All right, welcome world. We are back. And now we have an exclusive from Victor Jordan, who is going to try to replace Jeremie Williams in District 45 on a special election that's coming soon. Mr. Jordan, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, and would you like to tell the people what you have for them? And because Jeremie's going to be, those are big shoes to fill.
Indeed.
And how you plan on going about this?
Well, I plan to address the three main problems that we have in the district. Number one, we have a severe homelessness problem, and we have a severe displacement problem, which are in a way linked together. Secondly, in the southern part of the district, we have a severe foreclosure crisis. It means that we have many families, many residents that are losing their homes.
That's still going on?
Yes, yes. In fact, 11236 and 11234 has the highest foreclosure rate in the city. So that's two things. And the third thing is our educational system. As you know, recently in the news, Stuyvesant High School, one of the specialized high schools in the city, each year takes in 900 new students. And they were only able to offer students from our community 7 slots, which is 7 out of 900, which is less than 1%. So to me, that's a crisis in our education system. The fact that we cannot produce students, 7 students or 8 students who can qualify to get into Stuyvesant. So I intend to really look at revolutionizing the entire educational system because it's clearly not working. I mean, schools like Stuyvesant is where the major technology takes place. If you want to invent something, you must be in Stuyvesant. But if you're not there, you're not at the cutting edge of change in our society. And it means that we're not. And to me, that's a problem.
So do you think that the way they're going about it now is they want to change the test? Do you think that's the right way to go about it, or no?
Well, to me, I think we have to pick the school district and give them a goal. We want you to produce 100 students who can be ready to enter the specialized high school. And we need to give them the resources they need, but we have to set their goals. And they decide how much resources they need to produce 100 students who can be ready to enter Stuyvesant High School. We can tinker with the test also. I'm not saying I disagree with the mayor's approach, which is to take a certain percentage from each school district. There's nothing wrong with that approach. But I would also want to give the districts a goal, 100 students ready to enter the specialist high school. What do you need? Resources, and so on.
I was watching something this morning that said the new guy that's working for the education department, what's his name?
The chancellor.
The chancellor?
Yeah.
Oh, the one from Houston? I forget his name. Yeah, he came to our church.
Came from there.
Yes.
That he's cutting what's like $9 million from the system, from the schools that need it the most. That the $9 million that he's taking.
Well,
it's what for the books and the things that they need the most.
Where is the money going?
No, they're taking it away.
I know, so where is it going? Like, have they spoken about where it's being reallocated to?
No, they're just taking it away right now.
I think I'm pleased so far with this chancellor. His focus on the fact that students are not getting into specialized high school. I think we've been at this for a long time. We had community control of the schools, where different communities elected the school board that would then select the principal and superintendents, to the mayor doing everything. And I think that he's saying that after all of this, we still don't have students in the specialized high school. So I think that's a good thing. Now, in terms of resources, you have some districts that have a great deal of resources, and they get extra money from politicians, they get extra money from foundations, they get extra money from community residents. I mean, obviously, if you have a district where a lot of billionaires live, they'll give a lot of money to the schools that their kids attend. So you have those disparities. So District 17, where I'm from, we don't have a lot of billionaires living there. Therefore, we don't get as much. We don't have powerful people to get money out of politicians. So we don't have as much. So when you go to a district that's well endowed, you see all these programs, all kinds of enrichment for students that you don't see in my district. I think I've been advocating that we take a portion of all this money that the rich district have and share it with their brothers in the poor district. So it's really a question of resources. And the richer the district, the more money they have. In general, the more they have, the more they get. And the less we have, the less we get. So it's always a problem for us to catch up.
Yeah. I think that resources is essential to prepare students for the specialized schools. I think that the second component that's very important is communication and actually outreach, because I think in some cases there are kids that are equipped to go to those schools, but the schools that they're in or the communities that they're in, they're not necessarily advocating for that kid to go to the specialized school, and the specialized school is not looking for them. So it's a disconnect as far as communication as well. And once, we have more kids that are prepared, we still need to also make sure we connect those students to those schools. And that, I feel like that would be like the second step after integrating those resources into the communities.
I chaired the education committee for Community Board 17 in Brooklyn. And in addition, I'm a former high school mathematics teacher, so I taught at Erasmus Hall High School and at Boys and Girls High School. I also taught at private schools. So after all this experience and when I was the chair of the education committee, I had jurisdiction over 3 different school districts. And I at that time I lived in the more wealthy one. And I would have parents who would come to me and try to get me to allow them to use my address. You see, my address so they can go into this school district, because they were aware that this district had much more and was doing better. So some parents realize that it's a question of resources, that it's really
So they want to get the kids where the resources are?
Yeah, who has the nicer programs, who will take their students on trips to this place or that place, who has a smaller class size, who has the different programs, music, art. They know which school has it. And it's usually the richer districts. So after being in education for a long, long time, in fact, I went to high school and not too far from my district, it is clear to me that it's a question of resources. That if you allocate your resources based on the needs of the district, in a reasonable amount of time, you will begin to produce students who can get into any of the specialized high school.
What resources do you feel need to be implemented in those communities where you see severe disparities?
Well, certainly, if you have a lot of money, you can have smaller class size, all right? You can have more various programs, more music, more art. You can even have money to send children on different trips where they can have access to different things. Maybe you can even send them overseas if their parents will give consent. You can invite different individuals or with different specialties to expose them to this, that, and the other thing. So it's really a function of resources. And once you have a school with a lot of resources, teachers want to come to that school because they know this school has So you have the best teachers now who are fighting to get in because they know the classes are smaller. They do more things. I mean, the students are smarter, they're nicer. And so you see how the resources itself begins to produce a school that is desirable for everyone, not just, but if you have a school where it's starved of resources, starved of everything, then everyone wants to get out. And the school begins to decline. So the real question is to get the resources from the rich district on the Upper East Side or Park Slope or the richer communities. And how do we get them to share all their wealth with their brothers and sisters in the poor districts? Sharing is good, I think.
Mr. Martinez, what do you think?
I think that's a big issue, and I was going to wonder, do you have a sense, I know around the country that's a big issue about teacher pay and so forth. Do you feel in the district that you're serving that retention of teachers is a problem because of the lack of resources? Is that the sense you get from them as well?
Well, I find that teachers would like to be in a school that is well ran, that you have motivated students. Many teachers get into the profession because they really want to do good. They think they understand the subject well and they want to pass it on to someone else. So teachers would like to work in a very good school that's well having resources, programs, and everything else. I think you're speaking about salaries of teachers, which is a function of the negotiation between the union and management, which is the DOE, Department of Education. That's a separate question.
Okay.
I mean, it's a function of the union. I mean, how well does the union negotiate vis-a-vis Department of Education, which in effect is the city of New York?
Yes.
Right.
I think that also when you speak about resources and the teachers' pay, even those are separate issues, I think in like schools where the resources are adequate, some of the issues that we see in low-funded school districts are eliminated, such as like the teachers being required to get so many different supplies just for the students and things like that, and then that's when that salary issue starts to come up. It's like, okay, like the school doesn't even have ABCD, whatever it is, you know. But in schools where you have the adequate resources, then that doesn't conflict as much, you know, because unfortunately, education and mental health, those are some of the most hardest working jobs that you'll have in this country, and they're just not paid well.
Right.
You know, they're not compensated sufficiently. Like my opinion is that they're not compensated. I think that these people, they're responsible for our minds and our children, and they're just not getting paid what I think they deserve. And so, you know, that's another issue. But the least that a school could do is make sure that they have their supplies, you know, in order to like teach the kids and support the kids in their education. So
I must say that in terms of the supplies that teachers need to do their job, again, I've taught in the city school system, and I'm also a little familiar with the system on suburban areas, Long Island, which in general pays its teachers more. Again, they get their financing from the property taxes. We get ours from tax revenues. But I also find that on this districts on Long Island, there's a different consciousness, which is there's a sort of higher expectations, and they pay their teachers more.
yes.
In the city, there might be a different kinds of culture among the educational system. And I don't know if they have a culture of doing things a certain way, and therefore teachers aren't compensated at the same level as they are in other places. In fact, there was a time, it's probably also still the case, where churches in New Jersey were better paid than New York City. So I don't know if it's the value that we as city dwellers attach to our schools and the education of our children. It might be that we don't attach much importance. Because if we did, maybe we would just want to attract the best, most qualified people to do it, job. So I haven't really studied that a great deal, but now that you
But
mention
I
it,
agree with that. Like, if you follow the dollar, if you follow the funds, I feel like that speaks to like where our rating is, or what our ranking of importance is. So if and of course science and STEM is very important, but like if we valued education as high as we do maybe healthcare and things like that, I think that the salaries should reflect that. And also the funding in general across America, not just, places like certain areas in New York.
yeah. But I think another issue that I like to also talk about, because it's the different discrimination, because you find that most of the poor districts are black and Hispanic. So there's that question also. I mean, to what extent race is playing a role in the allocation of resources?
Yeah.
Oh, very high extent.
Should we allocate resources based on need? Or should we just give it, the more you have, the more you get? What we seem to do now is the more you have, the more you get, not based on the need
Yeah.
of the district.
And you continue to starve communities that are in need.
Right. So, but race, in my opinion, is a very strong determinant of how well a district is financed or funded.
And Marcus, any thoughts on this?
Well, I'm soaking it in, and I moved here to New York from a small town, Wisconsin, and it's just so different.
How was it there?
I thought I lived in a city. It wasn't a city. It was a town compared to New York, and it's just the amount of people, and it's all about the dollar. It's really all from the prisons to the schools and everything in between. There's money to be made, to be had, to be, and I just think the lines get blurred by the dollar, to where it's the interest of rehabilitating someone or teaching them or them learning or advancing.
Absolutely.
I think it's lost.
But still, despite that, I mean, I was in the job of trying to get elected. I visit many different churches, and I went to a Seventh-day Adventist church, and this pastor who has a prison ministry, and he tries to work with former incarcerated and try to integrate them into society. He said something. He said that 57% of the prison population is composed of black males, and I hope I have that right.
It's a little more.
Right. Yeah. So it's almost 60%, and he said that we make up about 12% of the population. So it's not just. I mean, sometimes you would meet folks that would say, "Well, it's all about money."
It's 14.
That example shows me that it's race must be bigger than money. I mean, I'm just trying to, and when he said that, I didn't know it was almost 60%. I mean, that's,
Definitely.
to me, that's,
I believe it's a little higher than that now.
well, but
It is,
that's shocking. And it tells you that race is a major factor in so many things. I mean, education, justice. So, I mean, and I even raised a question about, is that sufficient to say that, is that a sufficient standard for persecution? Is that an indication of persecution as opposed to prosecution? Prosecution is when you're treated fair and square with the law. The law is applied to you fairly. Persecution is when they treat you, they don't apply the law to you, but they treat you very bad. So it's a basis to apply for asylum somewhere. Because your group is treated so bad that you want to get asylum. Again, these are things that occurred to me when I heard this Seventh-day Adventist pastor speak. I mean, I was so impressed.
I wanna pose a question, because I still don't separate the two between the race and the finances, because it can be advantageous or profitable to be a person of color to a person that has money, because if I incarcerate this group of people who has a track record of going with the flow, of letting it go, of not joining forces, of not opposing and supporting one another, where there is no structure that will help that person get out or rise out of the situation. If I know if I victimize you and there's nobody going to back you up, there's nobody, then that you're the one I want. I want the ones that's not going to cost me money taking me to court and bring resources and people and make me look bad. Because and Hispanic and African American, the support system is little to none. Either we don't know how to do it, we don't know what to do it, or we're just too lazy to do anything. But in any one of those cases, if I want to, how much does it cost to incarcerate one person? What is the money made? I actually knew that figure, which is astronomical, with all the private prisons that are out here. At the same time, I say, if they're getting out too quick, then that messes with my money once again, as opposed to the longer I can keep you in, or the more I can keep this revolving door, I can keep this balance here of income that's coming, because somebody owns it and somebody is making the profit.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, I'm running for
So is that
office.
like saying it's a good thing?
You're saying it's functional and advantageous for the person in power or the...
Absolutely. If whoever holds the keys, it's just like an apartment building. I own an apartment building. I want the renters to come in. If I don't have to, if nobody's going to complain about fixing this and that and the other, I can get away with so much, then I'm going to make more. I keep more.
Well, of course, I hope to show leadership and reform our judicial system, which I think is biased. Mm-hmm. And I would say something even, more far-reaching, is that from the very beginning, I think that when the founding fathers drafted the Constitution, they always had in their mind race. I mean, that they said that we were 4/5?
3/5.
So race was always in their minds. And even later on, as we amended the Constitution, race was always a factor.
Yes.
I think our Constitution was designed specifically to keep us in our place.
Absolutely.
I mean, sometimes we speak about the Constitution with such romanticism about the past, about these founding fathers.
And pride.
But if I had my
pride.
way, I would reform the entire system. I would change the Supreme Court structure of the Supreme Court. I would change the way they issue decisions. But certainly I would change that court. I wouldn't have them put their names on decisions. So when the court issued decisions, it would just be the decision of the court. So you don't know who wrote it. So our president can't call you up and threaten you. Not that he does that, but so I would have it.
No, never.
I would not.
I think he does.
I would. So when they make a decision, it's just the decision of court. No minority opinions, no majority opinions, just one decision. And where did I get this idea from? The European Court of Justice. That's how they do it over there.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, they just issue one decision. And number two, I would have more judges, not 9. I would have one from each state. That's what they do in the European Union, in their Court of Justice. They have one from each country. And there's so many that you can't really control. I mean, as we have like 9, you can make 9 phone calls. But I think there are other things I'd want to do that I got from studying our judicial system that would make ours more humane, less biased. I think we have a system where if you lock people up, you prosecute people. Those are grounds to run for president. For some reason, the masses like that kind of news, and they forget about the importance of justice. But so my plan is not just the 3 things I mentioned: foreclosure, education, and displacement and homelessness, but also to lead a charge to reform the judicial system. So it doesn't just lock us up And one of the things that I would push for is to have the curriculum include more teaching about Martin Luther King. I felt he was a very extraordinary man to be so committed to nonviolence, and he was at times tempted to be violent, and he resisted it. I would just like to let youngsters know more about his life and his goals and how he resisted the temptation to do such dastardly acts. Not to turn them into Martin Luther King, but certainly to just give them an
Inspire.
appreciation.
Yeah, and that's, not to interrupt, but that's something we're doing at our church too. For the last 2 years, I believe, we've had a freedom school during the summer, teaching children how to empower themselves and basically learn about civil rights issues and learn that they can cause change and be advocates for change.
Well, you think Brooklyn's ready for you?
Good question.
Ready or not, here you come, right?
Right, exactly.
Ruben, I think this would go good to bring this to one, Jeremiah,
Okay.
and Kevin Van Hook for the
Sure.
Minister of Social Justice,
I'll do that, absolutely.
who both were supposed to be here tonight, matter of fact. Where are they? Who knows?
Nevertheless, this was a very amazing show, right? Your guests were great and gracious.
Well, I thank you, Mrs. Bailey. I'm honored that you're doing much better now. I talked to her earlier today. She was like, I said, what the? Oh my God. Take a power nap or something.
Enough about me. Go ahead and close out.
All right. But anyway.
I think you were simply angelic.
Thank you. That's what I said.
Devilishly angelic, I would say. All right, people. This is another great show, another great night. And so happy that we had this time together. And we have Victor Jordan, we have Marcus, we have Mr. Martinez, and you know Mrs. Angelic here. Have a good night.
Take a knee, take back the rights we've all been taught